Hello, I'm Herm Gailey. Welcome to episode 1 of our video series. This project is dedicated to the many fine horse people who have helped me in my lifetime with horses. Helped me at a time when I had nothing to offer in return but pure appreciation. Now it's my turn to try to pay that forward. Maybe help someone else who is at a different stage of their lifetime with horses. I'm not a professional horse trainer. There's nothing for sale here. If this series helps one person or gets one horse a better deal, then that's payment in full. Join us for our first episode, A Filly with a Temper. When you watch the clip, you'll understand the title. Be sure and stick around for the end of the segment, which shows a happy, well-adjusted young horse with a brighter future. With a colt we call Slim to sort of introduce what I did, how I did it, and why I did it with Ginger, the filly that had a bit of a temper tantrum for us. First of all, let me give you a little backstory on Slim. We're going to be working with a number of horses in these videos, and they all have a story. We've owned this horse about a year. He got his name because he's kind of a rescue. A friend of mine went down to Maryland to look for some young horses, and when he found them, he realized that they were really thin. They had not been fed the way they should have been. He went down to buy 1 or 2 horses. He brought 7 back and started feeding them. This was one of them, and I got him about a month out. When we traded into him, he weight taped at 820 pounds. He was 14, 3.5 inches tall. This is a year later. He's now lean, fit, weighs 1025, and stands just under 15.1. So he was ready to break loose, grow, gain some weight, and have a chance. I said quite a while ago I was going to stop buying horses because I feel sorry for him, but I kind of felt like he deserved a chance, and so far he's been earning that chance. He's sort of your basic, straightforward, blue-collar, old-fashioned kind of horse. Little bit dull. He can get a little bit upset or belligerent more with things, but you work through it with him, and he's fine. He figures things out, and then he's got it. Unlike a lot of the hotter-bred horses we see these days, he's a little bit colder blood and a little calmer, so he's working out pretty well. So that's his story. Now, what I'm going to use him for is the demonstrator of what I did with the filly that we're going to show you as the main part of our video. What she was doing wrong, and it was a real concern, was she had about 60 days riding on her when we made the video we're going to be looking at. In that 60-day period, she had made progress, but she always had a bit of an attitude. Spring comes, I'm grooming her up, scrubbing a little bit of hair off her belly, and I get down in here, and she thinks the right answer is to lay her ears back. And I said, "Are you sure you want to do that?" Well, she was sure enough that she tried to cow kick me. And every time I got my hand down there, she would do the same thing. So I thought, that's not going to work. And it's an aggressive move. And to be dead honest, they get aggressive with me, I'm going to get equally as aggressive back. She wasn't saying, "Oh no, I'm scared." She wasn't saying, "I don't know what you're doing." She was saying, "No, you won't." And my tendency then is to say, "Yes, I will," and to maybe put that in headlines for them. So what I did with her is I went back to some basic work that she had that should have taken care of any sort of sensitivity down there that was excessive. But what I typically do with my young horses is I'll use a belly rope on them. This is just a piece of nylon type rope. It's soft. I've got a big, what I call a boat snap on it that's heavy. Helps it to release. So it's not real cowboyish. It's not a lariat rope, but it's real easy to put on a horse for a variety of different things. It's soft enough you're not likely to burn a horse. The other thing that I do, you notice I'm not wearing gloves, and in the video of the filly I'm not wearing gloves. That keeps you honest. If you wear gloves, maybe you could burn a horse quicker. If you're not wearing gloves, you're going to burn before they do, and it gives you a little distant early warning. And since I don't really like losing hide, I've gotten pretty good at not burning my hands. Whoa, Slim. So I'm going to flip this over his back. Reach down, and there are probably better ways to do it than what I just did. We'll get him off the rope here. And what I usually do is I have them to where they'll go around me, they'll yield, and I'll use it around their heart girth first. And I want them to feel like if they're going around and I pull on them, they're actually going to come in. See that slack? And see the release in the rope when they give? Here's some pull, there's some release. See how much it releases? Then pretty quick, what I do is get back into the more sensitive area, back around their flank. And I'm not going to cut them in two with this, but I'm going to get back in there where they're kind of ticklish. And that takes the kick, that takes the don't touch me away from them. And in fact, that was done with this filly, but she began thinking she had some animal rights. And I didn't agree with that. So you have the right to put up with some of the stuff that I require. I'll move him off, and I'll take the slack out. Now see, he had this done. I give him slack back, I'll pull on him, I'll yield him. Now, what you see there is, he had this lesson, he remembers it, and he's polite about it. A lot of times, the first time you do that, you're going to have some sort of searching behavior with your horse trying to figure it out. They'll kick up a little bit till they figure out that they're going to get a release. And with this horse, and with the filly that we'll show in the video later, the important thing is they can kick and kick and kick, but as soon as they give, you got to give back. As long as they have a way out, they'll figure it out and they'll come to be peaceful about it. Now, there's a lot more to doing this than what I just showed. I just wanted to show you what we were doing with this young horse and why and how we did it, basically. Most of these videos, I'd say, do try this at home. This would be an exception. This isn't meant to be a how-to video. There's a lot of ways this can go wrong. You have one turn tail, head the opposite direction, take the lead rope away from you and start kicking, you're in a world of hurt. And other ways that things can go wrong. So unless you're pretty comfortable with horses and with ropes, don't do it. But it's worked for me, and it's what we did with this filly, and this was sort of a demonstration of where we're headed. So we're going to move on. We're going to show Ginger having her temper tantrum in the round pen. And remember, with horses, horses remember the end of the story. A lot of times the middle gets ugly, but all's well that ends well.
So I'm stopping this right here. We're 2 seconds into the video of this filly being worked with this flank rope. And if I had any doubts about this being what needed to be done, they're all over. Look at her, listen to her. In that first second, she's already vocalizing. She's already letting the world know that she is angry. She's not scared. She's not confused. She's not stressed. She is angry. So I have no doubt, looking at this, rethinking it, that this is what she needed. She did not need a half measure. If I was going to second guess myself on anything, it would be, how did I miss the warning signs that she was gonna get like this, that this was in there? Because I was working around things, waiting for her to come around, giving her time, where really that whole time this was building to this critical mass. Should have caught it, didn't, had to play catch up. This is where we're catching up. Second thing, please remember, this is not about the few minutes that we spend in the round pen. This is about the rest of this filly's life. This is a cute little horse. She's got kind of a kid look about her. And the last thing I could imagine would be selling her to some 10-year-old girl who tries to groom her and gets kicked in the belly. That would not be good for the kid. It would be not good for this filly's future either, because once a horse does something like that, they're marked, and maybe they've gone to a point in their life where they're not going to turn around. So a little ugliness now will give this young horse a much prettier future. Now, in this video, the soundtrack is largely provided by Ginger. She vocalizes through quite a bit of this, and I'm not going to overtalk much of it. One thing to look at is, or to look for, is the tipping point. There's a point close to the end of this where you can see her start to get on the same page with me. And it's interesting to see if we maybe all agree where that is. Look at the end of the video where she's going, and please watch the next segment, because the best way to judge what happens here in the round pen is by what happens 30 days later, when she's a well-adjusted, happier, more useful horse with a better future. So I will start the recording again, and we'll let Ginger tell the rest of the story. Now you're going to see some breaks here and there. I give her breaks to let her sort of think this through. Now we did piece this video together a bit, and that may not be completely apparent, but I don't just keep the pressure on her. I give her a little time to soak. Sometimes she comes back worse, not better. Other times she starts to get the message. So right now, she's looking kind of peaceful. I'm able to tug on that, move her closer to me. Pretty nice. But that doesn't close the book on backsliding. This is after she had a little break. I readjusted the rope. It's a slightly different place. I'm letting the slack come out completely and then reapplying, and she likes that much less. So this is kind of Custer's last stand for her. She's sort of starting to give it up. But she had to have that second wind there. That's why you hang in there. Don't assume that you're winning too soon, because you hear what she has to say about it. Did you see her think about it?
Yeah.
Changed her mind. Now, the whole sequence was longer than this, but we just didn't get it all taped. My wife was running out of arm. But the whole sequence was about 12 minutes. The video's about 4 minutes. And by the end of the session, I do what I like to do with all of them, and that is get them leading by the flank. Now, she's resisting leading, but she's not getting angry. She's starting to try to figure it out. And pretty quickly, because she's no dummy, she breaks loose and says, all I have to do is take the slack out myself. Pretty good deal. See, she's being led by the flank, not by the head rope. Although at this point, she's keeping up well enough that I'm not taking the slack out. And that's the kind of real progress we're after. Stick around, watch the next segment, and you'll see how she is a little bit later. So this is the same filly, about 30 days out. This was actually a sale video that we made for her. We were pleased with her, actually, but she was tiny. She was 14 hands. I'm 6'5". It just wasn't going to work. So we made this video to show where she was in her training. Overall, she had about 90 days by this time. So we tried to show where she was, show a little groundwork, show her moving around me on the end of the bridle reins, show her backing up and guiding as she went backward. And then we put her through some exercises with scary objects that were not particularly scary to her, which was good. So she had these things done previously when she was green, and I think it's useful if you're trying to sell one to let people see that they will tolerate things. Putting this over her head adds a bit of a degree of difficulty, and moving her off the spot requires that she trusts you. So these are all things I wanted to demonstrate. What's interesting is compare her attitude with the attitude she showed when I was working her with the flank rope in the round pen. That attitude changed radically after that round pen session. All of the things that she had been resisting, she just sort of tipped over into being agreeable and became a pretty pleasant little horse. So this is my go-to equipment, the dreaded milk jugs. And I start out with 1 and 2 and 3 and hang them off the side of the saddle. And I finally go make a big wad of them like this and use them to sort of get the horse used to things banging and clattering all over him. And what pleases me is the filly's relaxed. She's not objecting to anything at all. Now we're going to ride her a little bit, kind of to show where she is as a nice, relatively green, but pretty agreeable young horse. One thing I will say is you won't see me jogging her. Kind of a useless gait, frankly. I like to move them out when I trot, at least in sort of a working trot. She's a little horse, but she moves along and covers ground. Trying to show that she'll stay between the bridle reins. Not having to wrestle her around. And we'll get to center and stop. She's starting to learn to come up underneath herself, which is a good thing. And about where you'd like your 90-day horse to be. Of course, every horse has 2 sides, and we take her off to the right. So I'm not really talking about how I got this filly here. We're going to discuss those things at another time, but just kind of what this looked like after she got to a point where I felt like she could be shown to somebody and might make someone else a useful horse. But she's not bulging out or falling in. She's just sort of following her head and going where you need her to go. When we stop her, we're not yanking on her. We just pick up. And we do a couple of very basic things. We back her up. And she's stepping back. She's not resisting. Her head's steady. Has a little bit of speed to the back up. And showing the very beginnings of a turnaround. In my program, I'm not looking for a horse to lock down hard and fast. I just want to see the front end moving around. We'll stabilize that back end as she gets looser and softer in the front end. And again, every horse has two sides, so here's the opposite side. As she's wiggling her back end around, that's about where I expect her to be at this stage. Now, this is where this filly shows her true color. She is, by nature, a very nice horse to ride across country. She's crossing a thing down in the woods behind our house called the Timber Bridge. It was put in when they logged down here a few years back. She's going down through the rocks and the slop, and that's real life, and it suits her. And eventually, that's what this filly went on to be. Sold her to a nice fella down in Maryland who has ridden her all over the place, cross country. That was where her aptitude lay. Now, she's just a little horse. That was a taller log than maybe it looks like, so I asked her to pop over it. She just did that. Going down to the creek, doing things about the way you'd like your young horse that's going to make a trail horse. And best way to make a trail horse is to get off the trail. So this is this same filly, 30 days after that round pen session,